Hello everyone, Spider Fanboy here to bring you the next part to What If Grandpa Gohan Never Died. We're going to pick up where we last left off. They had just taken care of all of their extraterrestrial enemies. The Frieza and King Cold have been taken care of, as well as the Ginyu Force. King Cold and the Ginyu Force attempted to invade Earth, and they were soundly taken care of by the human Z Fighters. Whereas Goku, Chi-Chi, Piccolo, Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz headed out to Namek to warn them of the oncoming threat of Frieza. They made a plan. They had the Namekians move to New Namek much more early. Guru specifically asked for Piccolo to bring Kami to him, which he did via instant transmission, and allowed himself to be assimilated. So all of the Z fighters have had their potential unlocked. Um, Goku Goku and Chi-Chi and Piccolo didn't even need to fight Frieza, or Chi-Chi did, but she only needed to use the basic Kaioken to surpass him in base. The Earthborn Sea Fighters, Chi-Chi, Goku, and Piccolo easily surpassed him. Although Chi-Chi actually was just below his 100%. But either way, all she needed was a basic Kaioken in order to surpass his power, and she used the 3 times Kaioken in order to wipe him out, using her signature electric Kamehameha. After this, Vegeta and Nappa decided that they wanted to take down the rest of the Frieza Force members, as well as gathering any surviving Saiyans. And Raditz decided to tag along and rein them in, keep them from doing anything too stupid like trying to find New Namek. So he's going to be sticking with them for a while in their space adventures, but he does promise one day he'll stop by Earth again and visit to check up on Goku and Gohan, or as he calls them, Kakarot and Daikon, which is Gohan's Saiyan name. Uh, Goku, Chi-Chi, and Piccolo ended up teleporting back to Earth, and we are going to be jumping into a much longer time skip. So, the events, with the Saiyans, or with the invasion of, Frieza, having to deal with Frieza, happened around late age 762, like December of age 762. And Goku ends up returning at around age 764, nearly a year and a half. About a year and a half later, he arrives back in August of age 764. And there's also going to be the 3 years after that until the androids arrive, which here is going to be a much more fearsome force. So, here's what I'm going to have. I'm not going to be tackling the time travel stuff here. Just there's no need for time travel. We're going to be sticking to one timeline. The time travel really makes it a mess, and there's plenty of issues with the way the time travel works. I'm not going to be getting into that whole mess, but it's not going to be necessary. So we're going to have what is going to be around almost 4 to 5 years of peace. A similar time skip to us before. Videl and Gohan are around 8, 9, around that, like 8 to 10 in terms of their age range. And here, since over these last few years, I'm gonna go on ahead and briefly go over what the Z fighters have been up to. So since the human Z fighters are so much stronger than any human on Earth, they've actually kind of abandoned going to the World Martial Arts Tournament, since it's always just like the 8 of them. It's always Tien, Chaozu, Krillin, Yamcha, Yajirobe, and Mark. Like it's always them, and like whatever straggler is just strong enough to face off against them. And like when they say strong enough, they mean like above average human. So they don't really participate in the World Martial Arts tournaments anymore. They've all decided to go their own ways and open up their own dojos. So Krillin is going to open up the Neo Turtle School, the new Turtle School, and Tien is going to do the same thing, the Neo Crane School, which he's going to be running alongside Chiaotzu. As for Yamcha, and Tien is still with Launch. They've settled down. They're in a relationship, and Launch is actually expecting a child. And same with Bulma and Yamcha. Yamcha is setting up a dojo in West City, the the wolf the wolf dojo. We can say like the Wolf Fang Fist, or like the Fang Fist dojo, or just the Wolf dojo, something like that. Maybe even throws in like the Desert Wolf dojo, kind of like a callback to his bandit days. So he's going to be opening up the Desert Wolf dojo in New and in West City. Maybe maybe Krillin revisits the Orin Temple that he came from, and we can give him some lore, give him some story, and like let's say like the place eventually closed down. It was left abandoned after so many years, and we can say that he ends up buying the land. Maybe he takes out a loan, or maybe he's been doing some. Maybe in all of his travels that I mentioned before, over like those the years between Dragon Ball and Z, he was traveling around. So maybe he took place in some smaller martial arts tournaments and used the money that didn't go towards like let's say paying rent at like Kame House, or buying himself some food and taking care of himself. All that other money that he's just been saving, he puts it towards buying out the land for the temple. And he's going to be refurnishing it as the, with Roshi's permission, of course, as the Neo Turtle Hermit School. Um, and like I said, Tien, maybe he's been using his money from all of his mercenary days to open up his Neo Crane Hermit School. And let's say that Yajirobe and Mark, seeing this, decide to open up their own dojos with permission and assistance from Ox King. Yajirobe sets up the Oxen Fist Battle School. So, and it's going to be based out of Frypan Mountain. It's mainly going to be headed by Ox King, but he's also going to be kind of like the Ox King's more going to be the face and financial backer, and like the assistant to Yajirobe, who he's going to be pushing forward as the master of the school. Yajirobe's a little reluctant, but he's also been stepping up all these years. He's really been developing himself, and he feels like maybe he really can do this. Maybe he can handle being a martial arts master. So he's going to be training people out of Frypan Mountain, and Mark has decided to go out on his own and go back to his roots. So I don't know if this is actually a canon thing, but Masako X in his "What If Hercule was a Z fighter" mentioned that Tao Pai Pai actually assassinated his master of the Satan Castle, his martial arts master at Satan Castle. I do not know if this is a canon thing. Let me see. Mr. Satan and Tao. Mr. Satan Tao Pai Pai. Yeah, so apparently it's on his, like it's in the wiki. Tao Pai Pai did kill Mr. Satan's master. Apparently this was like some lore given by Toriyama. So we're gonna say like damn, I definitely could have used that as like a character moment between him and Tien. I don't know if I ever made mention of it before, but yeah. So we're gonna say that he's going to reopen Satan Castle. Um, let's say he does it in Orange Star City. It's not gonna be. It's not gonna be Satan City. It's still gonna be Orange Star City. But he does open up a dojo there. He moves there with Videl. Um, so that does mean he ends up leaving Frypan Mountain. So does Videl. But Videl can fly, as can Gohan. They're really fast. They're very powerful. It's not that difficult for them to meet up. And it's definitely not that hard for Goku and Chi-Chi and Hercule to set up play dates. Especially since, he's going to be busy. So she's usually kind of free to explore on her own and go visit Goku and Chi-Chi. And she ends up transitioning from her homeschooling at the castle at Fry Pan Castle to going to public school. And this actually kind of gets Gohan wanting to go to public school as well. He definitely knows he's like a year, he's like a year and like a few months younger than Videl, so they're gonna be separated in school by like 1 or 2 grades. But he definitely does still want to go to. He wants to try it out for himself. Maybe she shares like some of her experiences, and they're kind of interested. Goku and Chi-Chi, maybe it's not too difficult for them to convince. A little bit more on Goku's side. He has some, sentimental connections. They both do to spending their time out in the wilderness and exploring and having their adventures from youth. But they do decide like maybe this would be a nice change of pace. And Goku himself had some experience in living in the city with Bulma for his year of training before the 21st World Martial Arts Tournament. So he doesn't really mind. And he is kind of intrigued about the prospect, and he's able to talk Chi-Chi into it. The two of them, they have a discussion, and they do decide to move into Orange City as well. And we'll say that like their older home is going to be like more of like a vacation where they go occasionally like on some weekends, and definitely like for family events and birthdays they go out there to their old home in Mount Paozu and even visit Grandpa Gohan. But yeah, that's gonna be what they're gonna be doing. And I think I'm gonna have some tragedy here instead of the heart virus affecting Goku, because most theories are centered around either it was the way he lived in the woods or it was from Yardrat. Here they didn't go to Yardrat. Goku never went to Yardrat. That was never a necessity. So, and even if you do say it's an Earthborn thing, we can easily say he's not one of the first casualties, and we can just make it. It is a bit of a pandemic that spreads through the world, but if you do say it's an Earthborn thing, they do still eventually end up making a cure. And instead of claiming Goku's life, we're going to have a little bit of tragedy, but something that's been a long time coming. It's actually going to afflict Grandpa Gohan. And they sense his power level in distress. They go there. Specifically, Goku notices it, and he almost instantly uses his instant transmission to get there as quickly as possible. And everyone ends up gathering around him. Um, it's definitely like it's an unfortunately long process, but he eventually does pass away. But before he does, he tells Goku how proud of him he is, how much he's grown from the boy that he found that day out in the woods, and he's proud that he was able to have a family, that he was able to grow into such a great man, and that he's able to come so far. And he ends up passing away in Goku's arms in their old home. And they're definitely heartbroken by it, but at the end of the day, he passed through illness and he was near the end of his own natural life. So they can't really resurrect him from the Dragon Balls, and he made it clear that he didn't want to be. So we do sadly get some tragedy, and he is the one to die 6 months before the reemergence of the Red Ribbon Army. So then we get to May 12th. It is, yeah, May 12th, age 767. And this is where initially, in the meantime, like I said, I'm not doing time travel, but I am going to. There has been some changes. So instead of it being Android 19 and 20 who arrive, and it's not even going to be Androids 17 and 18. Jiro decides to test the Z fighters. He has like some good knowledge on how powerful they've gotten. He hasn't stopped observing them. He noticed how quick they were able to jump in power level when the Saiyans arrived, and how they were able to make even greater jumps in power when when King Cold's forces arrives. And he's not going to have Frieza's DNA, but he is going to have more powerful samples from the Z fighters here, as well as the Saiyans and King Cold. So he doesn't have Frieza, but he has much more powerful samples from who is already here. And he sends out the three androids in, I believe it's androids 13, 14, and 15. Those three from the Super Android 13 movie. And here the events are going to go about the same, but it's actually going to be between the human Z fighters facing off against these androids. They're powerful enough when they end up attacking I believe it was like East City. I don't even remember what city they were in. I just know they were in one of the cities, but I don't think it was West City. So we'll say that they end up attacking East City, and everyone is able to sense the destruction. Or it's like what 9 miles off of South City on that island. So yeah, no, we'll actually have it be that same island in canon. Um, the three androids end up attacking the place, and the first to arrive, when they all sense the loss of energy, everyone is quick to teleport to the location. Kami himself has been watching, and he hasn't quite been able to tell what's been going on. He's more powerful, but Jiro has witnessed these people, these martial artists, make use of mystical abilities. And if he was able to make like the infinite key engine and key absorption technology, it's possible. Maybe not too likely, but it's definitely possible. He'd be able to make something to hide his presence from magic users. He kind of didn't like the concept, the very concept of magic, considering he's such a scientist. But he did acknowledge his existence, the existence of the Dragon Balls. So he did end up developing cloaking devices to help hide him. But even then, from this much drastically more powerful Kami, it wasn't able to stay for long. So Kami and Piccolo are actually Kami sends out Piccolo. He's the first one to arrive, and maybe Tien was pretty close. Yamcha, the humans are quick to arrive as well, and Goku, Chi Chi, and let's say that they talked. Gohan is still in school, because like it was like what 3, or it was like I don't remember. They made it very specific, like what time of the day. But I'm pretty sure it was like we can say that Gohan is either at school or he's about to return home, and Goku and Chi Chi are quick to get into telepathic contact with them. He's noticed the disappearance of all these power levels, and he's still been training. Goku ended up telling him how Raditz was going to come back one day. He hasn't quite filled in on that promise just yet, but they've checked in with King Kai to check up on Raditz, and he's confirmed that he's okay. He's just still out there adventuring with the other Saiyans, and I'll be covering some of that probably in the next part. But it's my dog. But yeah, um, Gohan has been training, and it's something that he does, for fun with his family. That's still like a very common practice amongst them. And he's mastered the Uzaru, the Ikari state, and he's even pestered his father and his mother to teach him how to use the Kaioken on top of it. And he is able to manage it decently well. He doesn't have the greatest mastery because he's not hardcore training it all the time, but he can manage it pretty well. And Videl herself has also kept up with her training. With she's still the weakest out of everyone there, but her potential is showing. She's able to grasp key-based techniques with frightening speed. Like it's blindingly quick how quickly she's able to grow in terms of skill and technique. And she's even been taking lessons from Chi Chi in how to use magic and to incorporate it with ki, so that she's really good with ki constructs. So she's able to make like blades of ki that are then enhanced magically with like different elements and stuff. Specifically, flame and lightning, she's taken a real nice liking to them, since that's mainly what Chi Chi herself uses. But yeah, they've been doing some training, but they're talked into not stepping in. Yeah, it's mainly going to be Piccolo, Tien, Yamcha, and Krillin who initially show up. Goku and Chi Chi then teleport in, and it's not long before Mark and Yajirobe end up showing up, and they plan to confront these androids and to see what they're capable of. Tien, with his eyesight, is quick to notice um, the red ribbon symbols that they have, and Goku himself wonders if they're like Aider, Android 8. He wonders if they're artificial creations like him, and they engage in battle. They share some words. They have some DBZ movie villain banter. Uh, and here they find that they're actually solid matches for the humans. The humans, as they are now, are probably able to keep up with like Goku's base form. And Chi-Chi herself has been able to keep up relatively the best with her husband. Or no, they're not going to be equal to Goku's base form. Goku's long since surpassed him in terms of base power, especially with his transformations. But Chi-Chi is the closest human to constantly being able to keep up, since she puts greater and greater practice into her magical abilities as well as her martial art and ki based abilities. So she's able to keep up with him in base, and can use a similar level of Kaioken on top of her own transformation. But the thing is that they have not discovered Super Saiyan. Gohan has shown glimpses of a power greater than the Ikari state, and they wonder if it's some manifestation of his own magic abilities influencing the Ikari. Goku has tried using magic to enhance his Ikari state so that he can achieve something similar to what Chi-Chi's developed, but there seems to be some kind of wall that's separating his abilities to use magic in conjunction with the power of Ikari, like to bring out more potential. So it doesn't seem like that's just something that they can't really get past. And he himself has noticed that maybe there is a deeper power. After Gohan like briefly showed it in a training session against them, where Gohan ended up like egging them on. He was like, "Give me all that you've got." They decided to actually go all out in the battle in the training session, and Gohan's hair briefly flashed as the same gold color as his eyes. They couldn't get a good look at his eyes. They didn't know if his eyes had changed, but they did notice that his hair flared gold, and his power increased beyond that of even the Ikari. Wasn't as great as what he could use with the Kaioken, but it was more natural. But they haven't been putting too much effort into helping him unlock it, because it's not really a priority. It's definitely something they've explored, but not to a great extent. So they are unaware of Super Saiyan, but they're much more powerful, and the humans are able to take on the androids decently well. But when they begin powering up, they have to respond with, their transformations and their Kaiokens. You can easily say that they've practically mastered their previous levels of Kaioken and have been moving into a greater form that they've dubbed as Super Kaioken, where they multiply it in terms of 50. Yajirobe and Tien are the greatest users of this ability. They're able to push their Super Kaiokens to level 3, giving them a total of a 150 times multiplier. And, this is for Tien on top of his Ashura state. Yajirobe's body is actually just built different. He's just naturally, physically tougher. Um, the rest of the humans are at about a Super Kaioken times 2, and Chaozu can only use a Super Kaioken. He can't even use the Super Kaioken. He's been able to get himself to around a Kaioken times 20. That's the best he can manage. And that's in his giant state that he's been practicing and developing. But either way, they are able to push the androids into going into their into Super Android 13. So they end up destroying 14 and 15, and 13, hearing this, is quick to assimilate their parts into himself, and he transforms into Super Android 13. And here he completely surpasses the humans. He begins bodying them, and this is where Goku, who hasn't had a good fight in a very, very long time, steps in to take him on. In his own base, he's about powerful enough to match the humans in their Super Kaioken times 2. He can face off against Tien, who's the strongest human, and Super Kaioken times 2. With times 3, he'd have to increase his own power level by a decent margin using his own Kaioken. But either way, here he was able to face him off in base at first. Super Android 13 is much more powerful than he ever could have thought, and he's starting to push him back a little bit. Chi-Chi and Piccolo are a little bit worried, but he then ends up pushing his Kaioken into times 5, and he's able to take the lead from there. Then, Chi-Chi ends up telling him to take it more seriously and to finish the battle already. They don't know what this guy can do, and they don't really know his reasonings for being here yet. They need to get information out of him. So, Goku, he gives a little sigh of reluctance. He really wanted to enjoy this battle, but he knows that she's right. They don't know if the Red Ribbon Army was able to make something on this level. Who knows what else they have in store? This could just be the beginning. So he powers up into his Ikari state, and he's maintaining his Kaioken times 5. And he completely dismantles the android, but he does keep it in good enough state so that he questions him. He's like, "What are you doing? Why are you here? Are there any more?" And 13 just like chuckles menacingly, and he tells him that this is only just the beginning, the revenge and reemergence of the Red Ribbon Army. They will rule this world, and it will be a world free of Son Goku and all of his little friends. He then attempts to self-destruct, but Goku is quick to just teleport him out into the middle of nowhere space before teleporting back to Earth. And this entire battle is just been him gathering information, recording all of the data, and sending it to Jiro's database. Sorry, my sister popped in. But yeah, Super Android 13 and the 14 and 15 have basically just been using this entire battle as a way to gauge where they are. Sadly, they weren't able to draw Piccolo or Chi-Chi into the conflict, and it's clear Son Goku has more power to bring out. If the humans were able to push that weird Kaioken technique, as they called it, to such a high level, it's clear Son Goku can push it to a similar, if not even greater, heights. So it's a good thing that he strengthened all of his other androids and himself to such a level. Now, 17 and 18 here, it was mentioned that 17 and 18, their power, he like put some limiters on them, and so this is how I always interpreted it. It was said that in the main timeline, 17 and 18 were stronger than they were in Trunks' timeline. The way I always interpreted this was that maybe he did know, maybe he wasn't like paying attention, but maybe he did pick up, just like from his computers, keeping track of the Z Fighters power levels, that they were putting more effort into like that 3 year time skip. Because I can only assume in Trunks' timeline they didn't need to train. Since they weren't aware for the androids, and like specifically, this is why I always thought future Gohan was so weak, is because he wasn't training. He had no need to after Frieza. They thought that it was all over. And this is why I always thought that maybe he just decided to not limit their power as much in the main timeline than in the alternate timeline, where the Z fighters weren't experiencing so much growth. But either way, I always thought like it was due to the limiters. So here he decides to lighten up on the limiters, but and to act as insurance, he's also been giving some advancements to Androids 16 and 21. So 21 is going to be a thing here. She's not going to be like she was in canon. She's going to be a little bit. She is going to be a cyborg like 17 and 18. She's not going to be a true android like Android 16, because Android 16 is modeled after his dead son. But I think we can say that Android 21 here is going to be, instead of just modeled after his wife, it is going to be his wife. She tried to leave him after, the death of their son and his obsession with Son Goku and his revenge. She didn't. She just kind of wanted to move on. She knew that what they were doing with the Red Ribbon Army to begin with was dangerous. She never even wanted her son to be involved, and if anything, she blamed Jiro and his ambitions and influencing their son for their son's death more than she blamed Goku. Maybe she would have some bitterness towards him, but she didn't completely blame him. And Jiro, being the absolute madman that he is, couldn't handle this. He kidnapped her and ended up wiping her memories. So here she's an amnesiac who doesn't have any memories. All that she knows is that she's supposed to be loyal to Jiro, his ever faithful assistant, and she is going to be able to resist this part of the programming, but is her objective is to be safe with Android 16. The two of them are meant to protect each other, and their final directive is to kill Son Goku and his friends. So he's been putting more of his resources towards her in 16 than he has into Android 17 and 18. They're still going to be more powerful, but than even that they were in the main timeline. But they're also going to be, his backups. He's going to have himself and 19, the fat clown, who he's been putting some more development towards with their key absorption. And they're also going to have all of the data that they gathered from the battle against Goku. And here he decides that he's not yet completely confident in facing them. So he is going to let 17 and 18 out. He's going to have them tag along. But before he ends up releasing them, he releases 16, who he's ensured is stronger, and 21, who is going to be sticking with him. And 16's own directives, they're also going to be a little different. It's going to be that um, he is to mainly protect. He's mainly going to be to protect androids 20 and 21, Jiro and his wife, and he is also to rein in androids 17 and 18. He's going to make sure that they don't go out too out of control. And other than that, his directive is to kill Son Goku. 19 is just going to be the same as in canon, and they are going out. They're going to go out to meet up with to face off against the Z fighters. So they just finished off Androids 13 and all of them, and they're still sticking together. They're still in that Arctic wasteland, and they're kind of contemplating what should they do. Kami is about to send them a message, but then he's quick to warn them that a few people seem to be approaching. They seem to be similar androids as to before, and that they should watch their backs. So they all stand to attention. Goku ended up bringing along his stash of senzu beans, which is much greater since Yajirobe isn't with corn, so he's not constantly feasting on senzu beans. So there's hundreds of senzu beans in reserve, since he's not eating them every day. And yeah, with these senzu beans, he was able to help the humans regain their strength, and they're prepared to face off against these other mechanical menaces. So Jiro, 19, 17, 18, 16, and 21 are quick to land, and he doesn't even bother with introductions. He wants them dead, and he wants them dead as quickly as possible. Maybe they do trade some dialogue, and his main focus is on Goku and Tien of all people, since Tien did some work for the world government in taking down the Red Ribbon Army cells after their initial fall to Son Goku. So he's definitely pissed with him as well. And he tells 17 and 18 to go on ahead and have fun, but to not get too out of control. And he tells 16 to be ready to step in. As soon as 17 and 18 charge forward, he tells 16 to be ready to step in whenever. And he tells 21 to make sure that she's using her scanners and her capabilities to the fullest. So this is what I'm going to have for her capabilities. She's going to kind of have like that same connection to the main supercomputer that 13 had, and that she's going to be able to record all of their techniques, and her systems allow her to replicate techniques on the fly. And if she manages to collect any DNA samples from them, she's able to assimilate their samples using nanotechnology, and she's able to get a better read on she's able to copy their techniques, any ones that she sees. But if she gets a DNA sample from you, she's able to completely copy and replicate your abilities, similarly to how Cell is able to inherit abilities. So here, Project Cell is less developed. He hasn't even made the embryo just yet, or maybe he has, but it's not quite. It's even in an even smaller state than it was in canon. It's not that little itty bitty baby. It's like a few, literally like a petri dish that he only recently put into that incubation chamber. So it's less developed because he's been putting more of his biomechanical studies and research into Android 21. And she's going to be like their main weapon. She's going to basically be uh, recording all the fights live, and sending data, weak points, and suggestions to all of the androids there on the fly as they're fighting to give them the edge in battle. So androids 17 and 18 end up facing off against Goku and Piccolo, or Goku and Tien, since that's kind of their main objective. But they also want to have some fun. So they go for Goku since he's the strongest. They want to have more fun. They double team up against him, and Chi-Chi is quick to step into the battle and help him out. and they're like, why not just end the entire Son Goku's all of Son Goku's family? And they're aware of Gohan's existence. He's been recorded in the database, um, but they're not aware of his power. So they're taunting them. They're like, we're just gonna go on ahead and hunt down that little brat of yours next. He's like a half breed. It must be so weird living as some weird half human, half alien little freak. And this is quick to piss them both off. So they both transform and they face off against the androids, and it's like a bit of an even battle. Maybe at first it goes similarly to how like Vegeta in Android 18 was, where it's clear that they're out of their league, especially Chi Chi. She faces off against 18, and she's constantly like poking fun at her for her age, for her looks, for being on the battle, despite the fact that she can't hang with the rest of the with her freak husband, and how she had to like pull out a transformation out of her own ass using some magic bullcrap. Yeah, I'm able to criticize myself, but but then they start pulling out the Kaioken, which after seeing the progress that the humans made them not want to slack off. So they each go into Super Kaioken level 1, which is a 50 times multiplier, and they charge into battle against the androids. They resume their battle, and it's much more easily in their favor. It's a bit more balanced out, similarly to how Piccolo versus 17 was. And seeing this, Jiro tells 16 to get involved. He's about to charge forward, but he's held back by Piccolo, who is still holding that drastic lead in terms of base, but falls behind in terms of transformation. But that's not going to matter because his own Super Kaioken is enough at level 2, to help cover the difference. He has to keep it at level 2 to even try to hurt 16, and he's quick to pump it up to level 5, which is a total of a 250 times multiplier. And this is where 16 also begins to show trouble. Jiro is starting to worry, and he decides to go on ahead and take out the humans so that they can move in and support the other to support 16. He doesn't want 16 to be destroyed, so he charges in with Android 20. He tells 21 to stay behind and to keep out of conflict and to continue observing. She's like, yes. She's kind of like a little bit robotic, but she's also there's still like a softness to her voice, and she's like, yes, Dr. Joe. And she's still going to be observing. She's going to be avoiding conflict. And Jiro charges in with Android 19, and they face off against Tien and the rest of the humans. And here, this is where it becomes clear that the humans are still behind the rest of the Z fighters, um, as Jiro and 19 are able to hold them all off in their full power states. They're all transformed and they're all pushing their Super Kaioken to the highest limits. Um, it's Chiaotzu is actually the most difficult fighter for them to deal with because it's still the two of them against so many fighters. But they are able to hold their own, and it's like a climactic battle against the Z fighters and these mechanical menacing threats. Um, they begin to notice the infinite energy, like the fact that 17, 18, and 16 don't tire, and that 19 and 20 are able to absorb energy. And they're all kind of dreading what may happen if Jiro decides to order 21 to jump into the battle. They wonder what kind of capabilities she might have. They notice that she does have the gems in her hands that 19 and 20 do, but they don't know if she has anything else up her sleeve. They are able to eventually. They do kind of end up going into a bit of a stalemate before they briefly break off and pause. And Jiro ends up capitalizing on this. He's noticing their exhaustion, and he ends up snatching up Chaozu, or at least he would have if it wasn't for the fact that he basically pulls like another time stop. He's been perfecting it ever since he robbed the technique from Goldo, and he's able to get out of the way, but it was a very close thing. And they notice that this is where the battle begins to turn, as he and 19 start going for Chaozu, which causes Tien to get in the way, and they end up chopping off one of his arms because he's still in his Asura state. They chop off one of his fake arms, which causes him to break his concentration, and he drops out of his Asura state. And that's definitely a big loss. It's a 60% increase, but he's in Super Kaioken level 3. So 60% of his 150 times multiplier is a very big and very drastic loss of power. So this ends up breaking his concentration, and he's quickly losing ground. The human Z fighters are beginning to panic. They're getting their energy drained. Yajirobe and Mark are next to be caught. Um, Yamcha is quick to use his Wolf Fang Fist at Super Kaioken level 2, as is Krillin, who ends up using his own combination of techniques. Maybe he learned the Meteor combination from Goku. So they're quick to get him off their backs, but they notice that you know, they're losing power and the androids are only getting stronger, and they have to retreat and get away from the battle as quickly as possible. So they're quick to retreat and using the instant transmission, but they are able to track power levels. So they decide that they'll finish them off at their leisure. They turn to the battle where it's turned into a 3-on-3. 16, 17, and 18 are fighting against Goku, Chi-Chi, and Piccolo, who are beginning to flag a little. They've definitely been improving their stamina and their ability to maintain their transformations and the Kaioken. Their bodies are much stronger, so they're able to handle the stress better. But it's clear that they're beginning to flag as well. The, 19 and 20 are about to jump in, although they are then unceremoniously cut in half by Kian-san. Um, they took them. They actually made it as a bait. They made it seem like they were fleeing, only to teleport back in using instant transmission. They only took a minute to eat some sensu beans and get back to full strength. Uh, Krillin used the Super Kianzan, like a super-sized one that he ended up launching at them at high speeds using his Kaioken. Since he's been practicing ki control and spirit control, he was able to form it very quickly. So he was able to completely cut them in half. And this kind of causes a pause in the rest of the androids. Um, this ends up costing them, though. 21 she's still following her order to stay out of the battle. But and whereas 16, 17, and 18, they try to get away from the battle, but Piccolo is quick to extend his arms around 16, and 17 and 18 are kind of just stunned that their creator and like master that they obviously despise is finally dead. So they actually take that moment to really take that in before they're both punched in the nose by Goku and Chi-Chi. Which gets there. This is where they decide, yeah, they want to finish this fight and just kill them and be done with it so that they can live their lives however they want. And 19 and 20 are just blown apart. They were cut off at their elbows so they can't move their arms to absorb energy. And they're just completely blown away by a full power Kamehameha and Dodonpa from the human Z fighters. And they end up moving in to assist Goku. They kind of pause as to whether or not they should take on 21, but she kind of seems to be frozen there in shock. She doesn't really seem to know how to respond. So they charge in and they're battling. And here it's it's starting to go back into the Z fighters' favor. They're able to briefly hold off like one android each, so that Goku, Chi-Chi, and Piccolo are each able to take a sensu and get back to full power. They are starting to dismantle the androids, at least at first. They end up briefly separating, and 16, after finally being able to separate from the battle, actually zooms over to 21 and asks her if she has any orders for him. She's stunned and shocked out of her silence, and she asks him what is he talking about, and he tells her that Jiro's specific instructions is that all androids, in the case of his own destruction, were to either report to 19 or to 21, depending on who survived. 21 is the survivor, and thus his priorities have shifted. He is to protect her at all costs, so he asks her what are her orders. And seeing this, she looks over at the Z fighters, and maybe that little bit of bitterness towards Goku briefly flares up before she looks over at 16, and she has a fondness for him. She's not really sure where it's coming from, but it's instinctive, and she knows it to be more true than whatever orders Jiro has given her. So she says that she wants to see the world. That's her order. She wants 16 to take her to see the world. And they they both share a bit of a look. 16 is, this is where he's going to get his character development into being more than just a robot. And the human Z fighters are about to charge after them. They think that maybe they're going to go and destroy some more cities, but Goku stops him. He says that 16 kind of had a look there that reminded him a little bit of Ader. So he wants, and especially with that other lady, he didn't know why she looked at him like that, but he ends up reasoning that Piccolo's father wanted to kill him and Tien wanted to take him down at one point. So, and Vegeta and even his own brother, there was some animosity, some differences, but they ended up settling things. So he says that you should let them leave for now. And this is where he ends up turning to 17 and 18, who are definitely much more injured, and they're beaten up, they're scuffed, and he tells them that they're free to go as well, but if they cause any more trouble, if they kill anyone, they have someone watching, and they will take them down. They won't give. This is their one and only chance. If they threaten him, his family, or any of his loved ones, or any of the innocent people on Earth, they will be taken apart, and there won't be any dragon strong enough to bring them back. And this actually shakes everyone except for Goku and Chi-Chi, or Piccolo and Chi-Chi. They know that Goku has a ruthless side to him that he doesn't really like showing. But Goku in his Ikari state, saying this with those fearsome golden eyes and his spiked up hair, they actually take him seriously. So they say that they kind of try to brush it off with that teenage angst. I'm so cool. I gotta be cool 24/7. They're like, whatever. We never really wanted to follow those guys' plans, anyways. It just seemed like this kind of fight would be fun. But whatever. We're just gonna go and do our own thing. And they end up leaving, and they actually follow after 21 and 16. They want to see what the deal with those two are, and if they're gonna have to worry about them ending up like Jiro, trying to control them all the time. So the four androids are gonna be traveling around for a bit together, and the rest of the humans are kind of stumped. But this is where they decide maybe they should really check just to be sure that there's not going to be any more stragglers. So they end up reconvening at Kami's lookout, and they ask him if he had been able to observe any of this, and he says no. He's actually kind of worried that apparently Jiro seemed to be able to use some technology to shroud him from his sight, but now that he knows what they're capable of, he'll be able to work around it. And he says that for now they should use the Dragon Balls to see if Jiro had any other androids or any other plans, or if anyone else had any similar plans. So they're gonna actually weed out. They're gonna be weeding out, Project Cell. They're gonna find Jiro's sublab, and they're gonna blow that place to hell. And that is going to be the end of the reemergence of the Red Ribbon Army, their revenge. No death, no need for Super Saiyan. They're able to hold them. They're able to hold their own due to their increased power. Like I said, Jiro was more so increasing his own power and that of 19s, as well as putting more development towards 16 and 21 than he was trying to increase even 17 and 18s. It's just that he didn't put any limiters on their power. So there isn't actually too much difference. Since he's been splitting his attention, he actually wasn't able to make the androids probably as strong as they could have been. Maybe if he had taken more time. But he noticed that they were, settling into domestic life, and he thought it would be the perfect opportunity. Maybe in another timeline. But here they learned, they ended up being faced with the seemingly insurmountable threat of Frieza after so many years of peace. But they were able to surpass that, and they know that as long as they keep up the training, they won't have to worry about that kind of stuff. And we're at 50 minutes, so I'm actually going to jump into what the Saiyans have been doing. So as I mentioned before, the Saiyans have actually, they went out and they took care of the last remaining Frieza forces. They ended up finding Tarble, and they found that he was living his happy life, and Raditz was able to keep Vegeta and Nappa from stirring up any trouble. But Nappa himself has actually kind of been settling into this kind of new life. He wants to settle more into mercenary work. So after the destruction of the Frieza Force, he decides he's gonna go. He decides that for now he'll stick with them and find those other two Saiyans that apparently Kakarot ended up discovering about. Broly and Paragus, and he actually might be a little in the know on Broly and Paragus. What happened with him? He might have been high enough since he was like a general, I think. So he might have been high enough in rank to know about what happened with Colonel Paragus. So he actually ends up telling them about the backstory of Broly, how powerful he was, and here this is where things are going to get interesting. They decide to bring Tarble along with them. Um, and like they've been using that capsule corp chip that they got to increase their training. They tell them about the Ikari state, and they basically tell them that you know, like at first Nappa and Vegeta are kind of violent about it, but Raditz is quick to step in, and he kind of just explains that it's fine if he doesn't want to seek out the thrill of battle, but it'd be better if he's as strong as he can reasonably get, so that he can protect that little girlfriend of his he had on that planet. And I don't know how he got with that weird looking alien. I don't know how I don't know how the whole shebang works between them. But he's like, if you really want to protect her, it's good that you get as strong as you possibly can. What would a half Saiyan and half whatever that thing was even look like? Whatever. He basically tells them like, it'd be best that you get yourself settled, being as strong as you possibly can for now at least, so that you don't have to worry about any potential threats coming out from the woodworks. Like he ends up explaining how his brother was able to gain so much strength as a low class, and how he himself was able to get so strong, and he has faith in Tarble, even if he is supposedly weak for a Saiyan elite. And he's actually going to be training him personally, while Vegeta and Nappa are still doing their own kind of private training. And he ends up getting to that similar initial stage of unlocking the Ikari state. Maybe he ends up unlocking it when Vegeta's taunting him during training, and he kind of just snaps and he goes into Ikari, and he lands a solid gut punch on Vegeta, who ends up retaliating, but he's actually a little proud of his little brother. And eventually they do land on planet Vampa. And Paragus, seeing two members of the royal family, and possibly one of his own former superiors, doesn't even hesitate. He sends Broly out straight for the kill. And Vegeta, he's briefly able to hold his own. Vegeta, Nappa, and Tarble, they're each able to hold him off briefly, but he's quick to power up and surpass them. And then he ends up facing off against Raditz, and they both end up. Raditz faces him off in base. He's able to hold his own much better than anyone else. Um, and Broly, his eyes are starting to flicker gold, and Raditz is surprised. He and everyone else had to do such intense training, but this Broly, this supposed once in a lifetime prodigy, the potential Super Saiyan, was able to unlock it with such ease. He's able to instinctively rely on the power. So the second he sees this, he goes into his own full force Ikari. He's nearly mastered it, and he zooms behind Broly and chops him in the neck. And he explains to Paragus why they're here, how they're banding together the Saiyans, how they destroyed the Frieza Force. And Paragus is still he's blind on his rage, but he also wants to get off this godforsaken planet. So he agrees that they'll move out, but he definitely does not want to be around Vegeta. So Raditz is gonna have to play peacekeeper between the two sides of the group. Tarbo is also trying to play peacekeeper, but Paragus is hearing it even less from him, from this low-class pathetic excuse of a prince. This low-class level pathetic excuse of a prince. But he's actually stands his ground a little bit, and he actually ends up striking up a friendship with Broly, who Broly ends up taking a liking to. He knows his father told him that they should hate the royal family for everything they did, but Tarble seems to be even younger than him, and he knows that he's around the same age as Vegeta. So he's kind of confused as to why they should put the blame on those two. But he keeps those things from himself. But we can easily say that maybe the brainwashing that Paragus put him through, all that conditioning, isn't quite as strong. It's definitely firm, but not as ironclad as it was in canon. And here, since the Saiyans have made such a name for themselves as taking down all the Frieza Force, they actually end up being met with the Galactic Patrol, and they make an offer. They want the Saiyans to join them, or at the very least to enter some kind of relationship with them, where they'll pay them in order to either to as full-time employees joining joining the Galactic Patrol, or to work under them as mercenaries, to work with them as mercenaries. And Raditz actually decides to take him up on the offer, and he extends this offer to Broly, to mainly Broly, but also to Paragus, since he knows Paragus is gonna be leeching on Broly like a parasite. But he hopes that maybe this will help Broly um, get Paragus off his back and make his own life for himself. Broly actually accepts despite Paragus's initial protest, but he also thinks maybe if since Vegeta and Nappa end up refusing and decide to go on their own, um, he thinks maybe he'll be able to use the Galactic Patrol to get his revenge on them. And because of this, he's actually going to be loosening his control on Broly, just so long as Raditz keeps him out of trouble. And Tarbo decides he's going to go on a part-time thing. He'll join Raditz and Broly occasionally, but he's going to be living out his life on that new planet he was sent to with his little girlfriend. And yeah, they end up parting ways. And Raditz thinks that he finally has like a perfect sparring partner to help him grow in strength so that he can challenge Kakarot. And he knows for a fact Kakarot is going to get a kick out of Broly's potential. So Vegeta and Nappa, they themselves decide to go off into the universe, and they're kind of undecided on what they want to do, but they've heard some rumors about this group called the Heaters. Apparently, they are trying to fill in the vacuum Frieza left. They don't really want another Frieza, and they're not even sure what they want to do, but they're gonna go on ahead and see what these Heaters are all made out of. Apparently, one of the people working under the Heaters is some Cerulean, at least according to what the rumors say. They didn't know that any Ceruleans actually had survived the initial Saiyan invasion, and they decided that this is definitely going to be interesting. So, Vegeta and Nappa are heading to Planet Cereal. They're going to end up meeting with you know who. I say that because I can't believe it. I just forgot his name. Granola. They're going to be meeting with Granola, and they're going to hope to face off against the Heaters. Raditz and Broly, Paragus, and Tarbo is more of a part-time mercenary. They've kind of joined forces with the Galactic Patrol, who has heard of their reputation as the destroyers of the Frieza Force. And the Red Ribbon Army stragglers have been taken care of. 21, 16, 17, and 18 are going to be traveling the world and discovering their own lives for themselves. There's no devastating future timeline. There's no need for that. Launch and Bulma are both expecting, and we are going to jump into that 7-year time skip. We're going to have another time skip before we get into the Buu Saga. But the events of the Buu Saga may end up going about differently. There are much more powerful players out in space, so it's possible that Babri may not even see a need to stop by Earth. Although there definitely have been more powerful individuals visiting Earth. All those powerful power levels on Earth. King Cold of the Intergalactic Trade Federation visiting the planet before dying. He might be intrigued to visit. But we'll see in the next part of What If Grandpa Gohan Never Died. Sadly, that's not really applicable anymore since he ends up dying to the heart virus. But yeah. Everyone is really settling into more domestic life. Gohan is the first person to show a brief glimpse of the power of Super Saiyan, although he may not be the first to reach it, since the true legend that is Broly is now in play, and may end up serving as a more relevant plot point and more relevant character much earlier on. So yeah, that's where we're gonna end it, and we'll be moving into to the Buu Saga. This is definitely seeming like a timeline where everyone lives, and we're not gonna have that much problems. I'm actually gonna start a new series. Normally, I considered posting another part to this series, but I'm gonna break it up with another new series to another Dragon Ball series actually, since I just finished up my Bleach series. So be on the lookout later today for another new Dragon Ball based What If. So I'm gonna have 2 of them going up. And yeah, I'll tell you all about that in the next video. So like, comment, subscribe. hit that bell notification if you want to keep up to date with more videos. I usually publish around 1 to 2 videos every day. I'm going to be doing that for weekdays. And yeah, leave your comments, any criticisms, or things that I ended up leaving out or forgetting. And if you are just going to leave anything that isn't criticism but still negative, don't even bother. Just go waste your time doing something else. Find something that you truly enjoy. And that'll be it. That'll be it for now. Bye bye, everyone.